The NCAA has a long history of enforcing rules that seem to serve no purpose other than to serve their own interests. And in most cases, they don't care about the collateral damage that they may leave in their wake. They'll take down your favorite video game to maintain their broken amateurism rules, for it's one of the greatest college players I've ever seen to forfeit a Heisman Trophy that he fairly earned, or even suspend one of his top players in the game for borrowing money from a family member just to fly his girl out to watch one of his games. Technically speaking, all of these guys broke the rules. The issue is, a lot of these rules are dumb, outdated, and unfair. And while we're finally starting to see some progress in some of these areas, today I want to discuss one of the worst cases I can remember, where a guy technically broke rules, but they were rules that probably never should have been there in the first place. This man should have had every single right to do exactly what he did. This is the story of former Colorado receiver Jeremy Bloom, who also happened to be an Olympic freestyle skier. I hadn't seen anybody talk about this one in a while, so I decided to pull it way back from out the vault. Don't forget to like the video if y'all enjoy it, and I got a huge catalog of videos similar to this one, and I'm constantly dropping new ones every single week. So with that said, be sure to subscribe and enable your notification. But with that out the way, without further ado, y'all already know what time it is, man. Cue the way. As far back as Jeremy Bloom could remember, he wanted to play in the NFL. But as the son of a clinical psychologist / ski instructor, when Jeremy was only 10 years old, he was captivated by a different sport: freestyle skiing. Only 4 years later, at the young age of 14, dude was a national champion skier. And by the age of 15, he became the youngest male freestyle skier to ever make the US ski team. But for as good a skier as he was, dude could ball too. He was a bit of a specialist on the football field, more of an athlete than a natural receiver. You know the type, return specialist, the dude that get all of the reverses and in and rounds. Yeah, that was him, or at least that was his natural skill set. He figured out how to harness those skills and become actually a pretty damn good receiver. Freestyle skiing can do a number on your legs, and I read a couple articles that explain ways to prevent the infamous noodle legs you get when you go out to ski. And according to pro skier Crystal Wright, proper leg training in the gym can take your skiing to the next level. And wouldn't you know it, every single exercise she recommended easily translates to the football field. Squats, lunges, jump squats, Russian twists to strengthen up that core, the same type of plyometrics you see in football training, single leg deadlifts, all great exercises that we've seen before that condition the legs and the core so that you can withstand these slopes, but also you can do the same exercises so that you can cut and plant out on the football field. So if Jeremy was conditioning for the slopes at an early age, I definitely believe this gave him an advantage out on the gridiron and on the track as well. And despite the fact that he was a pretty small guy at around 5'9", 165 pounds as a high school senior, dude caught 48 passes for 1,116 yards and 12 touchdowns. He gained another 200 yards on 5 rush attempts and helped lead Loveland High to state titles in both football and track. He decided to attend college in his home state of Colorado, but ended up delaying his enrollment in hopes to make the 2002 US Olympic team, which he did. Unfortunately, he didn't medal as he finished 9th, but bruh, before this man even set foot in college, he was the 9th best freestyle skier in the world. That's crazy. So just to drive the point home, the man was an Olympian before he ever went to college. Okay, so he skied in the Olympics that February, and later that same calendar year, he was out on a college football field. He was used sparingly on offense as a freshman, but yo, he gained 132 yards on 7 touches as a freshman. You can't hate on that. Go ahead and try. With all that said, his actual niche and his specialty was punt return. During his freshman season, on 23 returns, he gained 344 yards, averaging 15 yards per return, and he took 2 of them things back for touchdown. Then that offseason, while most of us was trying to build a dynasty, this man won the World Championship duels medal at the 2003 Freestyle World Ski Championships. But this is where the problems occur. See, skiers in general earn very little prize money in their sport. So just like a lot of Olympic sports, the standard way they get paid is through sponsorship money. Yeah, You see the problem already. So Jeremy had access to the sport at a young age because his dad was a ski instructor. But keeping up training, coaching, and paying for travel all at an elite level can be an expensive undertaking. So that sponsorship money is meant to help with that. And Jeremy Bloom was that dude, man. Check this out. Dude had sponsorships from Oakley and Under Armour. He had a damn modeling contract and even appeared on TV shows on MTV and Nickelodeon. The man was a star. Unfortunately, it's one of the things the NCAA hates the most. The issue with this type of star power is that it tilts the power balance into the favor of the player. And the NCAA can't have that. But see, Jeremy was thinking, he foresaw potential issues, and therefore he didn't even accept a scholarship when he went to Colorado. He chose to pay his own way. So that way he's not getting no money, no assistance, and no help from the NCAA. So he felt he'd be good because of that, and then also he was following the precedents that was set by Tim Dwight. Now, Tim Dwight is an Iowa football legend who was drafted into the NFL in 1998, but won the Big 12 track championship in 1999. Yeah. Try to make sense of that one. See, in 1974, the NCAA changed its rules so that a student athlete could compete as a professional in one sport and still compete as an amateur in another. Drew Henson played quarterback for Michigan while being paid $2 million for the Yankees. Chris Winkie, Russell Wilson, we've seen this several times. And in those cases, it was never a problem. So you'd think Jeremy would be all right. He did not gain notoriety because he played for Colorado. Dude was already the man when he went to Colorado. He wasn't on scholarship, so he wasn't even taking NCAA money. So that's out. And him being a professional skier has nothing to do with his amateur status when it comes to football. But it all came down to that one issue. The NCAA did not want to make an exception under any circumstances for a college football player to receive sponsorships of any kind. They did not want to open that door because they know once that power starts to slip, other cases in the future are going to come up, and then they can use this to try to gain leverage. NCAA been trying to fight that since their inception. That's what they do. That way they can keep all the control and keep all of the money coming through their hands. From a business standpoint, it makes perfect sense. The problem is the NCAA is a non-profit, and they say that their main goal is to make sure that kids are taken care of, but their actions say differently. Jeremy argued that he should be eligible because skiers' standard revenue source is sponsorships. And the courts actually agreed on that point. For a skier, getting sponsorship money is really no different than a baseball player receiving a signing bonus. These are the standard ways you're paid in each sport. But the courts also determined that because none of the NCAA's bylaws mention, much less explicitly establishes a right to receive a customary income for a sport, and they also highlighted that the NCAA bylaws prohibit every student athlete from receiving advertisement and endorsement money, even in situations like this. And even though the NCAA reserves the right to make an exception, in this case, they decided not to. Jeremy was able to stall the inevitable long enough to play one more season. So as a sophomore in what would be his final year, Jeremy Bloom gained just under 1,300 yards, continuing to develop to be an explosive X-Factor type of player. Then after only 2 years of school, dude was permanently banned from competing in college sports. Despite all of that, he still ended up being drafted in the 5th round of the 2006 NFL draft by the Philadelphia Eagles, but he got hurt in training camp and ended up being placed on IR. The following year, he averaged 20 yards on kick return and 8 yards on punt return during the preseason, but the team eventually released him before the season even kicked off. He then signed and did a brief stint with the Steelers, but that didn't last very long before he was released, and that right there ended Jeremy Bloom's football career. Now, the dude would go on and be straight financially. I mean, he had a modeling contract, he had skiing, he had so many things going on and so many different talents that, of course, he was going to be okay in the long run. But they don't make it right or okay for the NCAA to do what they did in this situation. Let's keep in mind, this was a smaller guy. Who's to say 2 more years of college football, he doesn't continue to develop his body, continue to develop as a player, and then that way with 2 more years of grooming, When he goes to the NFL, there's a good chance he's drafted a bit higher, which will give him a longer leash on the roster. And then also there's a good chance he'd be more physically ready to go head up and go mano a mano with NFL players. The NCAA has the ability to grant a waiver to override any of these rules in unique circumstances. You're talking about a non-scholarship player who was an Olympic skier before he ever set foot on campus. If that's not a unique situation, I don't know what is. So, did he break the rules based on how they were written? Absolutely. But this was one of those weird cases where right was wrong and wrong was right. My name is FlemLo Raps. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'm gonna catch you next time, fellas. Bye.